for postmenopausal women who feel invisible. What is the secret weapon? It's muscle. Muscle? I thought that was just for getting jacked. Au contraire. Welcome, welcome. My name is Yulian, and we'll talk today about why muscle is so important for us older chicks, and especially anyone who's feeling invisible, that invisible woman syndrome. Be gone. We'll talk today about why muscle is amazing for more than just gym bros. It's like our secret anti-aging medicine. How powerful is muscle? Muscle is anti-aging super medicine. Spoiler alert. Let's talk first about this invisible woman syndrome that tends to hit women the nanosecond you hit 50. The supermodel, Paulina Porizkova, I think has done the most to put us invisible women, I put that in air quotes, back on the radar. She said she noticed around the time her marriage fell apart that she was invisible to the population at large. This is the part that made me sad. She said that it made her feel bad about herself. And I was like, oh man, because I remember pretty much when it hit me. I remember it was sleeveless weather. And I'm walking around and I kind of realized like no one had told me, smile. I always used to love that. I could go to Starbucks or wherever and caffeinate without the lovely offer of unwanted company. Yeah, no thanks. And it was like I could run out in public, do my errands without being harassed, without needing to wear as much armor. And I was like, when did that happen? And so, of course, I went to my second brain, which is now becoming my first brain. I Googled it. Invisible woman syndrome. There's so many of us that this has happened to, that we even have our own syndrome, invisible woman syndrome. And yes, everyone says like the minute you turn 50, poof, you disappear. Now, unlike Paulina Porizkova, because obviously I've never made my money off, supermodel looks, and I kind of felt like I had acquired a superpower. I was like, this is awesome. I can go out in public. I can be invisible. Woohoo. But obviously there's a downside. You're at work and you're invisible. Not so great for career growth. And what annoys me is just at the time we're feeling our most powerful and amazing, we suddenly become invisible simply because nature is, taking due course. Yeah, I don't think so. So I wrote a whole book about it called Age Like a Supernova. I define myself as Yulian Y, Defiant UN-Invisible. And it's available to read for free on my website, agelikeasupernova.com. And I also have for free, again, the TLDR version, which is my little handbook on what I do, how I eat and train to feel what I call uninvisible. I feel like it's not being visible, it's better. It's becoming uninvisible, defiant uninvisible. So right now, as of recording, I'm 59. I feel great. I feel like that fog of hormones has lifted. I'm back to that fierce little girl who wanted to change the world. She kind of went missing under a fog of hormones during my pre-menopausal years every month. A delightful fog of hormones that makes life difficult. And I feel like that's finally lifted. I'm back to myself again. I'm really clear. And yeah, I become invisible. Even if the rest of society doesn't want to see us because we don't look 20 anymore, we see each other. I see you. And I think for us to make our mark, because we are not invisible, and we see each other, and for us to make our mark, it comes down to feeling very uninvisible and supernova-like. And that comes down to muscle. Feeding muscle and training it and pampering it and keeping it. So you've joined our little masterclass because maybe you're confused about the role of muscle in healthy aging. And a lot of people think that, muscle's just for gym bros. Au contraire. Muscle is especially important for us defiant, invisible supernovas Maybe you're thinking about hitting the gym, and I hope at the end of this masterclass you'll be inspired to do less thinking and more doing. Maybe you're like me, already a gym bro, because despite my uptight white chick Karen appearance, I am a gym bro, I think, stuffed inside the body of a Karen. Or, the best of all, you want big glutes and you cannot lie. So that is what is on the menu for today. The first thing I wanted to talk about is what the wrong question is. And that is definitely this whole focus on obesity. It appeared in the 1970s, and the whole discussion ever since has been dominated by fatness. I mean, and obviously follow the money, right? There's the whole narrative, stock characters. You have the anti-obesity proponent. You've got the alarmist, the crusader, and my favorite, the obesity epidemic entrepreneur. The thing of it is, though, despite all of this fat-centric focus, by 2030, at least almost half, actually, of the world will be overweight, and a good 20% will be obese. The narrative needs to change. The paradigm needs to change. And this lovely, I call her a supernova in training. I don't think she's quite at she's definitely not invisible yet, and I don't think she's hit the magic 50 mark. Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, she's a very muscle-centric physician. And she says that we're not asking the right question. It's not fatness is the question. The question is muscle. We are under-muscled. And actually, she's got a really good book. I recommend it. It's highly. Big thumbs up. Called Forever Strong. She has the same message as I do. It's just she's got her fancy doctor degree. Even if you don't believe me, you can believe her. So now what I want you to do is indulge me and close your eyes a minute. There's a couple things I want you to imagine. You are giving a speech, a public talk, a talk at work, you're heading up a meeting. You feel amazing. You feel heard and respected and just seen, right? You feel defiantly un-invisible. How does that feel for you when you're up there feeling all that? I want you to really start to think about what you imagine when you feel your most un-invisible. I want you to imagine how it feels to be juicy again, that juicy, yeah, that feeling. I want you to imagine you feel focused. That fog is lifted and you're just laser focused on making your mark. I want you to imagine standing up there feeling confident. Just your most juicy, confident, seen self. You feel heard. You feel seen. You feel appreciated. I love that. We all love feeling appreciated. You feel like a badass, because never underestimate the badass factor. You feel visible, powerful, serene, not scattered and pulled in 18 different directions, but at peace and admired. And of course, supported by all of us fellow invisibles, right? And cherished, because we all deserve to feel cherished. This is what I invite you to do, which is come up with one image that for you sums up feeling all those things: confident, seen, heard, cherished, supported, amazing, serene, focused. What's the one image that really sums that up for you and reminds you about your most defiant, un-invisible you? Put that as your screensaver on your laptop or your tablet, whatever, your saver image. Why do I call it Ninja Supernova? Because we're out there. We're quote unquote hiding in plain sight, but we see each other and we have shit to do. We are supernovas. And I think the first thing always starts with, how do you want to feel when you imagine feeling your most seen and supernova-ish? What image sums that up for you? I invite you to find that image and then share with the rest of us. I've set up a group for us on Facebook. Just look for Ninja Supernovas. Come join the tribe and show us what you imagine at your most supernova. What is my promise to you for today's masterclass. My promise is that I will provide you with the most up-to-date and relevant evidence and science-backed information. What the science says, what the evidence says, what's tested. People love to prey on our quote-unquote insecurities about aging. Enough. What does the science say? And how can we use it to our most supernova-ish? So that's what I wanted to provide you with today, because there's a lot of myths, especially around muscle and feeding it protein. Masterclass number 2, we'll talk about protein and put a bunch of harmful myths to bed and replace that with what the evidence says. But my goal today is that you feel really confident in understanding why muscle is so important for anti-aging and just how powerful it is. Because knowledge is power, and I want to arm all of us. We see each other, let's support each other, and let's do our supernova thing. So let's first talk about muscle and feeling invisible. Why muscle? And I think the best analogy is that muscle's like a brick wall. Your skeletal muscle holds you upright and let you do all the things. This brick wall of yours, your muscle wall, is always being maintained. All the old bricks and crumbling mortar get removed. That's called muscle protein breakdown. That's what's known as being catabolic. It's always ongoing, sometimes at a slow rate and sometimes like overnight. It goes on at a fast rate, but it's always ongoing. The key thing to know is it's not an on or off switch. At the same time, your wall needs new bricks. If you remove the old, you got to put in new, right? Hopefully, more new bricks get put in than are removed. As new bricks are being added to your muscle wall, that's called muscle protein synthesis, being anabolic. And I'm sure you've heard of anabolic steroids. It has to do with muscle building. So for instance, after you hit the weights at the gym, it sends a signal, an anabolic build muscle signal. Or if you eat enough protein, it sends the same kind of signal. Like muscle protein breakdown, they're both occurring. It's just the rate at which they occur. Over time, if muscle protein synthesis, being anabolic, is higher than muscle protein breakdown, you will build muscle. But the problem starts when there's more muscle breakdown than muscle being made. For our purposes, as Defiant UN-Invisible Supernovas, we definitely want to be anabolic. And we can. We just have to be a little more strategic than the young uns. But I mean, we are anyways, right? Hello. Starting around 30, and this is scary, more bricks start being taken out. It's called age-related loss of muscle. If you lead a very sedentary life, you don't eat enough protein, you don't hit the gym, your muscle starts to go away. It's very expensive for your body to maintain, and it starts to shrink. And the rate of muscle protein breakdown can really start to gain momentum. Yay, right? Another joy of aging. And the rate of muscle protein breakdown can become fast if left to its own devices. Why is it as we age that muscle protein breakdown, that wall, all those bricks are being taken out faster than being put in, and we start to lose muscle? Well, there's 2 main reasons. The first is being too sedentary. For instance, this is a scary study. They did a week of bed rest, and these were a bunch of guys that were the subjects in their 20s, so, at peak physicalness, and about a week of bed rest is your typical recovery period from illness. They lost over 3 pounds, 1.5 kilos of muscle mass. Yeah, it just vanished. I mean, if you do lift, you know how hard it is to gain 1.5 kilos of muscle. That takes some work. For it to just vanish in a week is scary, and they became more insulin resistant. That pathway leads to diabetes eventually. Getting in fewer than 1,000 steps a day is basically like saying to your muscle, bye-bye, see ya, muscle. Being sedentary is the first big reason that muscle goes away, especially as we get older, and you become frail. If you don't have muscle as you get older, you become frail. The second, aside from physical activity, is how much protein you are eating every day. There's a whole myth that as you get older, you need less protein. It's actually just the opposite. If you're under consuming on protein, you're not giving your muscle the substrate as they call it, to grow. So I think the most helpful way to think about protein is for building this wall. You eat chicken or fish or whatever. And it's not the protein per se your body's after. It wants the little bricks inside, the amino acids. Over half of those we can only get from the food we eat. Our body can conditionally make some of them, but not in great amounts. There's 20 big ones, and we get those from what we eat. So you have the protein and your body starts to break it down, called denaturing. It sounds scary. It's just unfolding these proteins so your body can get at the little amino acids and break them apart, because that's what it uses to build things. So once your body has all these little amino acids, what it's looking for in particular is one called leucine. Leucine is what's called a branch chain amino acid. It just has to do with its structure. But leucine, this particular amino acid, is prevalent in things like fish and meat. There's a master enzyme called mTOR that when it sees leucine in enough quantities, it's like time to rev up the muscle-making machinery. Unfortunately, like us, our mTOR gets a little hard of hearing. So leucine kind of has to shout at it, like, yo, mTOR, listen up, make new muscle. And the way it shouts at it is by having larger doses of protein than you need when you're younger. When you're younger, you can get away with about 3 grams of leucine, a serving of fish or a serving of chicken. You need closer to 5 grams when you start closing in on 60. And that's called anabolic. Remember, that's muscle protein synthesis. We're resistant to that as we get older. Remember, our mTOR gets a little hard of hearing. So we need more leucine to shout at deaf mTOR. Okay, so all this high protein is dangerous to my kidneys, right? Well, let's see. So what's the current state of your kidneys? Are your kidneys healthy? Okay, so no chance. Are your kidneys okay? High protein doesn't hurt your kidneys. Nothing to see here, like you don't have kidney disease, then high protein will not hurt your kidneys. That's a myth that needs to die because it might put fellow supernovas off consuming enough protein, and that's bad, as we'll see. So if you have normal kidney function, and if you don't, so if you're not, eating high protein is actually going to increase your filtration rate, which is a measure of kidney health, and it decreases the risk of hip fractures and loss of bone mineral density. So that is a myth. Higher protein intake is harmful to the kidney is a myth that just needs to die. Go away and die. Speaking of myths, let's start with some more myths about muscle. And then at the end of these, I will talk about my own pet peeve muscle myth. So obviously muscle myth number 1, muscle is just for gym bros. The more muscle you have, the more you're protected against becoming insulin resistant and type 2 diabetes. You're protected against osteoporosis because muscle pulls on bone. And you're protected against the number 1 killer, which is cardiovascular disease. So muscle is a must for supernovas. It protects you against the chronic lifestyle diseases, especially heart disease. Think muscle, think anti-aging weapon against heart disease. Again, it's like that wall. You're building, you're eating your protein, and you're putting those new bricks into your wall, and it keeps your health happy. Muscle myth number 2, it's a young person's game. Well, no. As we know, it's a must for supernovas because it keeps you from becoming frail. And if you're not frail, you're less likely to fall. Falling has really bad outcomes when you're older. It's a significant predictor of mortality. Building muscle is one of the best ways to defeat frailty. Keep your wall from becoming frail by having your protein and building your muscle. Build your muscle and then feed it with protein. It's just about the outer package looking jacked. It also has amazing impact inside on microbiome and mind. I love that. Muscle, microbiome, I love alliteration. They found that muscle protein synthesis actually affects the state of your gut. And then your gut affects the state of muscle protein synthesis and the storage of glycogen. It's the way glucose is stored in your muscle. Because the more muscle you have, the more places insulin has to tuck your glucose away after you've eaten. That's why exercise is always recommended for people that have issues with insulin resistance. It's super important to keep your blood sugar level in that really narrow band. They also found that age-related loss of muscle is associated with depression. They think that some of that has to do with if you feel frail and you're afraid of falling, you're less likely to go out and socialize. And social isolation is a pretty nasty killer when you're older. Muscle is just a must for your microbiome, the state of your gut, and for mental health. Keep your wall strong, with muscle. Takes too much time. That was in contention for my number one pet peeve. The fact is that it doesn't take time away. It gives you back an amazing life. A well-designed program, which we'll talk about in, I think it's MASTERCLASS number 3. There's some key things to a well-designed program, but if you have a well-designed program and you hit the gym anywhere from 3 to 6 times a week, I tend to go 5 to 6 times a week, for less than an hour, it pays you back with an amazing life. It's not time away, it's an investment. You can pay now or when you go to the hospital. So it keeps you balanced emotionally and it gives you back. What's my pet peeve by way of myths? Muscle makes you bulky. Oh my God, that myth just needs to die. Let's talk about the maximum amount of muscle that a woman who's not taking anabolic steroids, PEDs as they're known, you can maybe pack on up to 25 pounds, up to 11 kilos of muscle, maybe, maximum. But if you only put on 10 pounds of muscle and lost 10 pounds of body fat, you'd look amazing. And you won't look quote unquote bulky. You'll just have armed yourself, building up your brick wall of health. I only wish it was as easy as myth to pack on muscle. Like I said, I'm a gym bro. And man, those gains are hard won if you're not on PEDs. So that myth just needs to die. Bye-bye. It's not going to make you bulky. It just makes your wall amazing. Kind of edgy, cool, and beautiful, like you, right? 10 times more fabulous. So muscle, it protects you against chronic disease. It stops you from becoming frail, meaning you can still have a social life and do your day-to-day independent things that you do now. It protects your microbiome and it protects your mind. No, it won't make you quote-unquote bulky. And it doesn't steal time away from your life. It gives you back. It pays you back. Muscle is amazing. What do we do to get muscle? Well, I love KISS. Ain't no one got time for complicated. I keep it simple. And there's only really 2 steps that you need to focus on. The first is eating enough protein. Again, people aren't, as they get older, that myth that you need less protein. Oh God, no, it's just the opposite. And the second thing is you really need to lift weights. What is optimal protein? Well, it's not a percentage of calories. It's based on your ideal body weight. For me, I would love to be 50 kilos all the time. My body would love it if I were 60 kilos. So anywhere from 110 pounds to 130. That's way too fluffy for me. So I tend to kind of divide the difference, maybe 53 kilos or maybe around 114 pounds. My ideal body weight is, let's say, 115 pounds. So it would be 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal. That means I never go under 115. And generally, I'm closer to 150 per day. And like I said, if your kidneys you're not on dialysis and you don't have damaged kidneys, high protein more is actually associated with healthier outcomes. So if you're just kilos, just times 2.2. So it's 50 times 2.2. That's the first thing, is to calculate your optimal protein. And just remember, because you're anabolically resistant as a function of getting older, you need to have almost twice as much protein. I usually try and have 50 grams of protein per meal. It's not a percentage of daily calories. It's an absolute number based on your ideal body weight. And that's super important. That's a myth where people do a percentage of calories. No, 4 calories per gram, and then you can build the rest of your calories out from there. Your calorie budget will determine your weight, and then the protein will determine your muscle. So yes, calories matter for what you weigh, but within that, protein takes top priority. Absolutely, because muscle is our medicine. In a second, I will share with you my favorite high protein breakfast that gives me 50 grams of protein. What does 50 grams of protein look like? Because we need that for leucine to be in sufficient quantity to tell mTOR, yo, build muscle. A couple scoops of whey protein isolate will do it. You could have a large chicken breast, or 1.5 of them, some boiled shrimp, 2 containers of Faya yogurt, so good, and non-fat cottage cheese has about 26. Just remember, from the perspective of your muscles, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And the reason is that you haven't been consuming protein if you've been sleeping overnight. Your liver, for instance, uses amino acids to make all sorts of things, and it pulls that from your muscles. Your muscle is your reservoir of the little building blocks, and we don't store protein the way we do fats and carbs, either in muscle as glycogen or in body fat. The only place we can store those precious amino acids are in skeletal muscle. So it's super important after you've been catabolic all night to have a high protein breakfast. From the perspective of muscle, absolutely. This is my little favorite breakfast. I use non-fat yogurt and 2 scoops of whey protein. I'll also make overnight oats, because fiber is so key. If there ever was such a thing as a superfood, it's fiber. So I'll do that in the fridge. And that's 50 grams of protein, bam, in the morning. But protein is so expensive. Okay, I love me a Dunkin' coffee. A typical large ice Dunkin' coffee is about $2.79 for a big one. And if you get, I love ON, Optimum Nutrition. Dymatize is another brand I like. But 2 scoops, so that we're getting our 50 grams of protein, comes down to under $2.50 per serving. And this is directly going to feed your medicine. This is medicine for your medicine. It's actually a food. It's a byproduct of cheese making that's powdered. That would be like saying powdered milk isn't food. Yes, it is. Well, whey comes from cheese making. It's the gold standard for protein. For under the price of a large Dunkin' coffee, yeah, it's a pretty good deal, health and vitality wise. And so we calculate our optimal protein. Definitely have breakfast, a good 50 grams serving at breakfast, and at your last meal of the day, again at lunch if you want to. Make sure you're getting in at least 120 grams of protein. Like I said, I tend to go closer to 150. Then the second step, start lifting weights. It's really worth it to hire a trainer if you're not a friend yet to the iron. You don't want to work out so hard that you get damaged. You want your muscles to adapt. That's this principle called progressive overload. You stress your muscles out, and then it sends a signal. Your body's like, that's pretty heavy. I need more muscle. The gym is where you send the signal. When you leave the gym, when you're out of the gym, muscle adapts to the load, muscle adaptation. But if you have so much damage that you can't walk for 3, 4 or more days, all those resources in your body just go to repairing the damage, and you don't really ever move ahead. Finding that sweet spot, which is about 60 to 85% of your max, is what a good trainer will help you to identify. That point, that sweet spot where you don't have too much damage, but you get maximum adaptation, meaning you're maximizing your 50 minutes in the gym. Newbies tend to underestimate how hard they're training. They found that when they've tested them. And that just comes from practice. So a good personal trainer is worth their weight in muscle gold. Let's talk about some success stories about the power of muscle. This is Joan McDonald, who's pretty well known. She's closing in on 80. When she was 70, she went to the doctor. She was heavy on meds, just felt awful. The doctor's like, we're going to up your meds unless you make a change. And she did. So now she eats about 150 grams of protein a day. She's around 15 or 1600 calories a day. That's my maintenance as well, is around there. And yeah, she hits the weights. She can now do unassisted pull-ups. Unassisted pull-ups! Oh my God, she's got 2 million plus Insta followers. She just has this joie de vivre glow that I want now. I don't want to wait till I'm 78. Yeah, so she's super inspiring. This is Wendy Ida. This was snapped at age 71. She started her fitness journey in her 40s, lost weight, became a trainer, entered bodybuilding competitions, and beat women half her age. She's totally inspiring. Love this Korean bodybuilding grandma. She had stenosis, which is where your spine starts to get narrow with age and pinches nerves. There's a lot of pain, so she started lifting weights. Then her trainer was like, hey, you want to enter a bodybuilding contest? She said she was a bit mortified by the teeny bikini and massive heels, but she did it. And it's super inspiring, I think. And yeah, the pain, the stenosis pain was taken care of with the weights. This is Ina Koolhaas. In her 70s, she starts powerlifting. She's got an aptitude for it and starts training. She's turned it into a whole lifestyle of really good habits, push-ups and whatnot. When they did her blood work and they tested her at Maastricht University, Luc van Loon, who's one of the world's best protein researchers, he had amazing bone mineral density, comes body fat. Yeah, more hand grip strength. It's a really accurate predictor of all sorts of good outcomes. Amazing Ina is one of my favorite supernovas. The key thing is make sure you are not sedentary, hit the weights, eat your protein. Luc van Loon was in on this paper where they found that weight training, progressive training, is well tolerated in everyone over 60. Exercise is medicine, and it is mandatory. Mandatory for optimal health. All right, so if you don't go the muscle route, what awaits? The sarcopenia is a term for age-related muscle loss. You can see the normal brain versus the Alzheimer's brain. If you want to keep your faculties about you, muscle will help keep this nastiness at bay. To me, that's so scary. And there's two parts that are misunderstood when it comes to being strong. There's the actual muscle mass, sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss will eat away at that. Then there's the neural component. Think about two guys lifting a heavy couch. If one lifts at one time and the other at the other time, and they're really discombobulated, that couch ain't being moved too far. But if they coordinate, they're like, all right, on the count of 3, 2, 1, and then they move the couch, they move it smoothly and far distances. Your brain and muscle kind of work the same way. If you're a newbie lifter, the first 4 to 6 weeks is just your brain figuring out the most efficient and smooth ways to move, not so much couches, but heavy weights. So that neural component, and if muscle mass goes away, the mind-muscle connection goes away. That's called dynapenia. Yeah, no. No. Hand grip strength has a lot to do with measuring the neural component of things. So yeah, it's super important. The association of age-related muscle loss and things like Alzheimer's is driven by muscle function. Muscle really is medicine. Losing muscle means that by the time you're 80, you can have half the amount of muscle that you had at 30. Half. And you have to walk more slowly. You'll have poor balance. You won't be able to do normal daily life activities. More risk of falling means social isolation. And less muscle means less places for insulin to put fuel after you eat and tuck it away. So it leads to insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, all these lifestyle diseases, and heart disease. Muscle is not only anti-aging medicine, it's a super powerful medicine. And you don't want to be depressed and die. My big irrational fear is dying alone under a bridge. My mind just automatically goes there. I think the quality of life, it comes down to the quality of life. I love this slide to sum things up. An MRI of thigh muscles. So if you look at a 70-year-old who has sedentary versus a triathlete, not only is the muscle of the sedentary individual, it's shrunk, but it's also the quality of the muscle. It's been infiltrated by fat, surrounded by a layer of fat and infiltrated. So it's not only less muscle, but lower quality muscle. Whereas you look at the triathlete, he's got really high quality muscle. It's not infiltrated with fat and it's big. I think these pictures speak for themselves. I want you to think for a moment, if you ignore muscle and protein, how it could impact you as you get older. Muscle is anti-aging medicine. It protects you, and it doesn't steal time away from you. Building it, taking the time to build it, doesn't steal time away from your life. It gives you a life. And I think that starts with imagining how you'll feel if you don't have muscle versus how you'll feel at your most uninvisible supernova self. That's why our favorite supernova in training, Gabrielle Lyon, says that skeletal muscle is the organ of longevity. I hope you feel like I kept my promise to you to give you the most evidence-based information to make your best choices about supernova you. Muscle will take you from feeling invisible to feeling uninvisible and allow you to express your most supernova self. Let me know what the most surprising thing you learned from today's masterclass. All right, the next step. I think go get in on the freestuff.com. You can read my book for free. You can download it there. You can read it on the site. And I have my little TLDR handbook, Become Uninvisible. Just go on the navigation, look for the free stuff. In masterclass number 2, where we're going to talk all about the power of protein, what you need to know, what the science says, because I'm the evidence-based girl, more about anabolic resistance and overcoming it with protein quality, especially plant-based versus non-plant-based protein, and pretty much all the myths that need to die, what the science and evidence says that will make us our most supernova selves. I hope you found today's masterclass really helpful and informative, and most of all, inspiring, because we see each other and I want us to support each other and really appreciate the beautiful power of muscle for anti-aging. It's the most powerful anti-aging medicine that we have. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments, or come join us on Facebook at Ninja Supernovas. Because even if the rest of the world doesn't see us, whatever. We see each other, we support each other. Supernova power. Until next time, eat your protein, hit the weights, don't be sedentary, and most importantly, get your supernova on.